間になりましたので始めたいと思います。皆さん、こんにちは。本日はジェトロミネソタ州政府共催ウェビナーにご参加をいただきましてありがとうございます。ジェトロシカゴ事務所の橋本と申します。本日はよろしくお願いします。日米ともに新型コロナウイルスの感染が引き続き拡大中ではありますが、そのような中、お時間をいただきましてありがとうございます。それでは冒頭、私からもミネソタ州の概要について簡単ですけれども、ご説明をさせていただきます。まず、基礎情報です。アメリカの北部に位置しまして、人口561万人を要する州です。この数字は千葉県、兵庫県に近い数字になります。成長率 2.2%、全米平均には劣りますけれども、州の人口がほとんどになって 2.2% キープしていますので、やはり日本の企業の皆様には魅力的に映ると思います。1人当たりの所得が特徴的でして、州政府でも最も高い数字になります。これは州の産業が高度化していることを示していると思います。経済産業構造です。昔から伝統的な農業州ですが、ミシシッピ川の源流に位置しますので、古くから他の州との交易、製造業の要所として栄えました。その基盤に加えて、大学、病院、企業の存在があり、医療機器産業の一大集積地として成長します。近年は再生医療など、他のライフサイエンス分野も成長して、民間企業、州政府ともイノベーション創出のためのエコシステム形成に尽力をされています。進出日系企業の状況ですが、122社見られます。もともとは成熟した市場の中でサプライチェーン全体の評価をした上で、それを魅力的に感じて M&A で進出をするケースが伝統的な方法でした。一方で、米系の大手の医療機器メーカーが新しい商品を開発する場所でもありますので、その開発時点からコミュニケーションしていく必要性から、日本企業としても営業拠点や研究開発拠点をミネソタ州に設ける動きが見られます。それでは本日、そのミネソタ州の最前線について、生の声をお聞きいただければと思っております。それでは、開催に先立ちまして、主催者挨拶として、ジェトロシカゴ事務所長であるラルフ・インフォルザートよりご挨拶をさせていただきます。
こんにちは、皆さん。私はジェトロシカゴのラルフ・インフォルザートです。Please allow me to speak English for a bit. I hope everybody is well and safe in this early new year of 2021. Actually, this is a very important webinar we're doing today. I know the state of Minnesota quite well. Let me explain a couple of points on how unique the state is, especially related to healthcare technology, life sciences, medical device, and biotech. You may hear the term medical life science ecosystem. It's a common term many states use. Minnesota is different, actually. The Minnesota ecosystem is more than an ecosystem. It is a community. So the startup companies or the companies that come to Minnesota, they want them to succeed. They will help immediately with business needs, or you need help on finance, or you need help on business model, or you may need introductions for business partnering. They build a community around you because they know if your innovation succeeds, it will promote human health. So it is a very good community where you will be welcomed and you will be supported. Okay? Second point, everyone, from the leader of the state of Minnesota, Governor Walz, to the state government, to local economic development people, they recognize Japan has health technology innovation. They know it. and they want to meet you, and they want to show you how welcomed you will be in their community. So, once the pandemic is over and it is safe, come with me and Hashimoto-san and Consul General Okada, and we will go to Minnesota and we will meet the governor. We will meet the professionals to help you. They have a very good Japan community that will support you. So please, please take a good look at today's presentations and know that you will be welcome in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you. ありがとうございました。それでは本日、岡田総領事にご臨席をいただいておりますので、ご挨拶をいただこうと思います。岡田総領事、カメラをオンにしてください。ありがとうございます。それではよろしくお願いいたします。
はい。皆様、新年明けましておめでとうございます。シカゴ総領事の岡田でございます。本日はJETROシカゴ、そしてミネソタ州政府主催のこのウェブセミナーに挨拶の機会をいただきまして誠にありがとうございます。コロナウイルスのため、なかなか実際に顔を話して合わせて話すことができない昨今、このような貴重な機会を作っていただきました、ミネソタ州政府のウォルズ知事、そしてJETROシカゴ事務所のインフォルザート所長にまず御礼を申し上げたいと思います。またこの後、ミネソタ州の概要についてお話をいただく州貿易局のウォルバート部長、そしてDMC という医療産業集積の構想についてお話をいただくシーブ DMC 地域経済開発公社の代表にもあらかじめ御礼を申し上げたいと思います。そのコロナウイルスでありますけれども、日本でも宣言が出、またこちらも大変な状況が続いております。皆様の中にもビジネス、あるいは個人的なご生活の方に様々な影響が出た方もおられると思います。改めて心よりまずお見舞いを申し上げたいと思いますし、皆様のビジネス、あるいは個人的な生活が復活し、復興し、そして反転攻勢に出られるように心からお祈り申し上げたいと思います。そして本日のミネソタとの関わりがその一助になることを心から願ってやまないところであります。さて、そのミネソタ州政府ですが、現在大変に日本のことを重視されています。現在のウォルツ知事、2019年9月に日本を訪問されましたが、実はこれは大変な意味がございます。というのは、ウォルツ知事は、自分の知事としての最初の外国の訪問先として日本を選ばれました。実は例えば輸出市場として海外を見た場合、ミネソタ州にとっては最大がもちろんカナダ、そしてメキシコ、中国で日本は4番目にしか過ぎません。しかしこの4番目の日本を知事は最初の外国訪問先として選ばれました。これはまさに先ほど、ラルフ・インフォルザート所長がおっしゃった通り、日本に医療産業の集積があることを知事がよくご存知だからだというふうに思います。また、実はミネソタ州の知事は、ここ8年間訪日がございませんでした。そういう意味で、現在のウォルツ知事がいかに日本を重視されているかということは、よくお分かりいただけるかと思います。そして、その知事の下、貿易局のウォルバート部長は、進出されている日本の企業の皆様の大変親身になって相談できる相手として、非常に素晴らしいパートナーとして長年貢献いただいておられます。また政府の外ですけれども、ミネソタ州にも日米協会がございます。そしてそこには、この後挨拶いただく斉藤理央専務理事がおられて、大変な存在感、活躍をされておられます。間違いなく進出される日本企業にとって大きな心の支えになるというふうに確信をしております。さらに、ミネソタ州には、モンデール元副大統領がおられます。モンデール副大統領は、カーター政権時代の副大統領ですが、皆様ご記憶のかもしれませんが、クリントン政権の時代に駐日大使として東京で勤務をされました。大変な親日家であられます。したがって現在でも日本に行く留学生に毎年奨学金を出され、そして日米関係で頑張られた方を毎年表彰するといった活動をされておられます。そして実は、ウ ウォルツ知事もモンデール副大統領も民主党ということで、このモンデール副大統領、大変な親日家が知事のメンターでもあるという構図がございます。また、ミネソタ州には名誉領事が一人おられます。名誉領事というのは、ミネソタがシカゴの総領事館から遠いということから、日本政府として1名アメリカ人を名誉領事に任命し、在留邦人の皆様、日本企業の皆様をお支えすると、そういう制度があるわけでございますけれども、現在のレオンハート名誉領事は、お父様はドイツ人ですが、お母様は日本人、そしてご本人はアメリカの名門大学を出られておられますが、高校は実は日本の神戸のインターナショナルスクールを出ておられるという日本経験者であられます。そういったことで、この素晴らしいラインナップを見ていただいても、人的側面でいかにミネソタ州が日本にとって素晴らしい環境かということがお分かりになられると思います。そして人的側面ならずですね、ミネソタ州は日本フレンドリー、大変日本フレンドリーです。まず直行便があります。そしてその直行便でミネソタの空港に降りられますと、皆様はなんと空港内で日本語の表記、しかも漢字のみならずひらがなの表記をご覧になります。それだけでも大変心強いと思いますし、実は私も同じ経験をしました。そしてミネソタ州内には大きな町としてセントポール、ミネアポリスがございますが、セントポールは実は日米の中で最初の姉妹都市ということで、1955年から長崎市と姉妹都市関係を結び、今でも毎年灯籠流しがセントポールで行われます。またミネアポリス市も大阪府の茨城市と姉妹都市であり、ミネアポリス市内には茨城市から送られた友好の鐘というものが設置されておられます。そしてスポーツ面でも皆様ご存知の通り、前健選手、前田健太投手がミネソタツインズで大活躍され、昨年は投手部門のサイ・ヤング賞の候補にもなり、またオールスターチームにも選ばれるという大活躍日でした。こういった日本フレンドリーなミネソタ州でありますが、実はさらにビジネスフレンドリーでもあります。毎年発表されるビジネス環境ランキングでは、ミネソタ州は全米ナンバー7、第7位ですね、という素晴らしい成績を上げておられます。労働力、インフラ、教育、生活の質、そして技術革新といった部分が特に優れていて、教育あるいは生活の質などは全米で第3位という素晴らしい高さを示しています。例えば、2ヶ月前に行われました大統領選挙においても、ミネソタ州は投票率が全国でナンバー1という民度の高さであります。このような素晴らしいミネソタ州において、実はすでにたくさんの日本企業が活躍されておられます。およそ107社の日本企業が6000人以上の雇用を生んで、日本とミネソタ州に貢献をされておられます。ミネソタ州には、ミネソタにある会社で海外に行って素晴らしい成績を出した会社にだけ与えられる知事の国際貿易賞という賞がございますけれども、2019年、この賞がダイキン工業株式会社の子会社であるダイキンアプライドに対して与えられています。また2017年には沢井製薬株式会社がアップシャー・スミス・ラボラトリーズという会社を子会社化しておりますし、世界的に有名で当地にあるメイヨークリニックでは日立の機器が使用されていると、こういった様々な日本企業の活躍がされているところがこのミネソタ州の特徴であります。そしてもちろんミネソタ州は全国的にもミネソタナイスと呼ばれるものがありまして、これは外から来る人に対してもとてもみんなが親切であるというミネソタナイスの州であります。そしてウォルツ知事、モンデール副大統領以下、私すべて皆様にお会いしましたけれども、本当に私は言うのは僭越ですけれども、素晴らしい方々です。どうぞ、ミネソタ州に投資をお考えの皆様、100% の安心を持って来ていただければと思います。最後になりますが、皆様のますますのご健勝、ご発展をお祈りしたいと思います。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
岡田総領事、ありがとうございました。お話にもありました通り、ミネソタでの日本コミュニティの中心でありますジャズムとよく略称で呼びますけれども、日米協会より斉藤理事に参加をいただいております。斉藤さん、カメラをつけてください。では、一言よろしくお願いします。
はい、皆様、明けましておめでとうございます。ミネソタ日米協会の斉藤理央と申します。この度はこのような素晴らしいイベントにお招きいただきまして、本当にありがとうございます。 ミネソタ日米協会では、ミネソタの方々により日本への関心とご理解を高めていただくべく、様々なイベントを行っております。と同時に、日本の皆様をいつでもお迎えできるよう、みんなで力を合わせて、日本の方々が移住してきたときに、寄り添うところのできるコミュニティを作ることも心がけております。去年はコロナ禍ではありましたが、皆さんに少しでもつながりを感じてほしいという思いで、5月から20以上のオンラインイベントを行いました。これからも地域の皆様がつながっていられるように、いろいろなイベントを催していこうと思っております。今年3月にはオンラインで日本のウイスキーのテイスティングイベントをしようと思っています。それから、ノースダコタには日米協会がないものですから、ノースダコタよりに日本へ大豆の輸出をしていらっしゃる方によるビジネスレクチャーなども予定しております。ぜひ日米協会のウェブサイトや SNS ページをご覧になっていただいて、イベントにご参加いただければと思っています。そしてメンバーとなっていただいて、私たちと一緒にミネソタと日本をつなぐ住みよい地域を一緒に作っていただけることを願っております。皆様、お体に気をつけて、いつかフェイス2フェイスでお会いできる日を楽しみにしております。今日はどうもありがとうございます。よろしくお願いいたします。
加藤さん、ありがとうございました。それではメインセッションに参ります。まず、大変光栄なことですけれども、ティム・ウォルズ知事よりメッセージをいただいております。なお、本メッセージは昨年末に録画をされていることを申し添えます。
Good morning in Japan, and good evening to those in the United States. I'm Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. I'd like to welcome you to Minnesota, the global destination for health and wellness. I'm excited to send this message as it reflects on the partnership Minnesota has long enjoyed with Japan and JETRO. In particular, I want to recognize the leadership of JETRO's Chairman Sasaki, whom I met in 2019 in Tokyo. Thank you also to Ralph Infrazato of JETRO Chicago, and especially to Consul General Akata. Since Chairman Sasaki and I met, our countries have faced a year like no other. Japan and its leaders are to be admired for the outstanding handling of the coronavirus pandemic in your country. Despite the challenges of this year, Minnesota is optimistic. Today you'll hear and learn about engaging with the world-renowned Minnesota medical ecosystem. Of course, Mayo Clinic, the #1 hospital in the world, is located right here in Rochester, Minnesota. But what you may not know is about the multi-billion-dollar initiative of Mayo Clinic in partnership with the state and city government, local communities, and private investment. It's called Destination Medical Center. We're proud of this collaborative and sustainable initiative to build a community of the future right here in Minnesota. I hope after today you'll have a better understanding of Minnesota's global leadership in healthcare. We stand ready to help you realize your goals and ambitions. Together, let's build a world that is healthy and sustainable.
知事、ありがとうございました。それでは続きまして、州政府貿易局のサラさんよりお話を伺います。サラさん、カメラをつけてください。
Thank you very much, Consul General Okada, for those wonderful, warm remarks. And excuse me a second. And also for the very thoughtful PR from Minnesota. Thank you to JASM, Japan American Society of Minnesota, and especially to JETRO for organizing this, and Mr. Ralph Infrazato and his team. And I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone. Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu. From here on, it will be all English. The new year brings new opportunities, and I'm looking forward to helping you discover Minnesota today. It's not easy doing business in the United States. I know. I have lived and worked on both the East and West Coasts. So I hope by the end of this webinar, you will agree with the Minnesota advantage. Some of Japan's best companies are here, and they have joined the 900 other foreign businesses who are here because they have found Minnesota to be more convenient, and very collaborative. First, just a quick overview. JETRO has covered most of this, but I would just like to point out that Minnesota has historic trading ties with Japan. Significantly, in the 1960s, northern Minnesota's iron ore was shipped to Japan's steel mill industries to manufacture steel from northern Minnesota's port of Duluth on Lake Superior, one of the 5 Great Lakes. The sister city relationship was already mentioned, the first between the US and Asia. And both St. Paul, which is our capital city, and the city of Minneapolis are located on the Mississippi River. They are across the river from each other, basically, and that's why our nickname is the Twin Cities. You've heard of the baseball team Minnesota Twins this evening. However, Minnesota is the only state where the Mississippi River actually begins. And I know some of you listening tonight have actually gone to that, or today rather, have gone to that tourist site where the Mississippi River begins. Some of you may ask, does Minnesota have Japanese restaurants? Yes, of course we do. And we also have an authentic kaiseki ryori place in downtown Minneapolis near the Mississippi River. Los Angeles and San Francisco may have many more restaurants. However, they also have earthquakes. We do not have earthquakes. So this map shows just a few of the daily nonstop destinations from Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport, MSP Airport, before the pandemic, of course. Minnesota's advantage, unlike California and Boston, is that all major US hubs can be reached within a 3.5-hour flight. Internationally, already mentioned by the Consul General, we had daily non-stop service to Tokyo's Haneda Airport and also to Seoul, Korea, as well as European cities. What has not changed since the pandemic is, of course, our convenient central time zone, which is efficient for a distribution system, very important for the medical industry. Minnesota enjoys an economy that is diverse, which makes it very stable. We are also a major banking center, including the Federal Reserve of Minneapolis. This diversity is reflected in the many headquarters that we have for major corporations that began here. 3M, you see, is Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. And 3M has been a strong collaborative partner in fighting COVID-19. Even though our economy is diverse, Minnesota's advantage is that we have a strong foundation in computing and software. And this is a key to helping Minnesota's medical sector industry become Minnesota's #1 sector about 35, 40 years ago. Some people are saying that Minnesota is the world's Minnesota is the Silicon Valley of healthcare. And I do agree. However, we are slightly different than Silicon Valley. Number one, Minnesota has the big major medical corporations here. Number two, Minnesota is well known for its collaborative culture between industry, academia, and government. As an example, you will hear from Destination Medical Center later. Number three, Minnesota is also known for our humble attitude compared to the East and West Coasts. But today I will put that humility aside to explain why our Governor Walz said a few minutes ago that Minnesota's medical ecosystem is world-renowned as the #1 health technology innovation cluster. Why is Minnesota's ecosystem an advantage, not only for medical devices, but across many emerging technologies. A few of them are listed here on this slide. Our strength comes from the three interlocking pieces. The first are the major pillars. These are the big corporations and the organizations, and they are local. Number two is our supply chain, also local. And in this presentation, I include goods and service providers because the services are important for the medical industry. And third are the small and medium-sized companies and the startups. And all three of these groups support each other. And they share a passion to improve lives, as Ralph Inversato already said. Perhaps you have heard the catchphrase, the mobile phone is the new stethoscope. As you know, the iPhone is now used to monitor and diagnose. In fact, telemedicine has probably jumped 10 years forward just since March of last year, pandemic. But at some point, if you have a medical disease or your family has an injury, you need to be treated. Someone must develop a treatment, and this is what motivates Minnesota, to improve the lives. And they believe that the profits will follow in time. This is Minnesota's decided capability advantage. Here is just a snapshot of the Minnesota that has contributed to improving the health and lives of people everywhere. And by the way, all of these are significant partners in the fight against COVID-19. I don't plan to read the entire list because JETRO has kindly translated this for you into Japanese, but I will highlight the fact, as has been mentioned, that Mayo Clinic is the #1 hospital and their partner, the globally recognized Destination Medical Center. We also have the world's largest medical company, Medtronic, which was founded here. Also, of the top 20 largest medical device companies, 15 have a presence here. And we have 1,000 other healthcare companies. You see several listed below. We also have 10 major hospital systems, and finally, the big health insurance companies. Health insurance, a very complex part of doing business in America. In addition to these businesses, Minnesota's advantage includes the support of 3 more key pillars. Of course, Mayo Clinic is our biggest treasure, but next is the Medical Alley, which is the largest medical trade association in America. Its 600 members include the famous companies Mayo Clinic, and as you can see below, recent members include Olympus Surgical and Takeda Pharmaceutical, which have major facilities here in Minnesota. Now, you might not expect Best Buy as a member. They are America's biggest electronics consumer retail chain. They have a very interesting initiative, and the Best Buy senior executives now includes a chief medical officer who is focused on digital health. For example, the health monitoring services to help seniors stay in their homes as they age. So if exploring the US market, your company will find that Medical Alley can be a very good resource, and they have worked with Japanese member companies to help make very important connections. The other important pillar is the University of Minnesota, a major research center. Shown here is the world-renowned Earl Bakken Medical Devices Center, named for the inventor of the pacemaker, Mr. Bakken, who also founded Medtronic. Several Japanese companies have sent visiting engineers to the MDC, to the Medical Devices Center. And the MDC has many, many initiatives, no time to explain them all, but if your company is exploring the US market, may I recommend the International Design of Medical Devices Conference in April. It is a true demonstration, academic industry collaboration, and the latest in medical technology. with over 1,000 participants, although last year it went virtual. And this year in April, they are planning a special forum on AI and medical devices. There are many other university opportunities for your company. For example, it is not shown on this slide, I apologize, but the Stem Cell Institute is the oldest in the United States. The director happened to call me today to say that they will be presenting in Japan virtually at a LinkJ event, if any of you are familiar with that. And he also told me that the Stem Cell Institute is very open for collaboration with Japan through its foundation and its incubator at the university. So moving on to the supply chain, if research is not so much of interest, but you are interested in exploring the U.S. market through M&A, one possibility is through the supply chain, such as contract manufacturers or design and development engineering firms. There's a big German company who has done so quite systematically and pulled all of their M&A together and consolidated into a collaboration hub in a suburb of Minneapolis. This chart was shared with me by the CEO of a design and development company to make the point that from product development to market entry, please learn from the Minnesota experts who know how to avoid costly mistakes so Minnesota can help you accelerate your commercialization. Excuse me, sorry about that. So I would like to briefly review the process because here in Minnesota, look at the light blue circle, we are trained to first think about what is the unmet need and to think about a market assessment even before the engineers design a prototype. Moving down to the lower circle, FDA, you know that the FDA is not interested in Me Too products unless it is better, faster, and cheaper. So successful companies develop a regulatory strategy and also the reimbursement strategy, the next circle. And they develop these strategies very early with the help of experts. And these experts interact with the FDA almost daily, if not weekly, before the application is submitted to the FDA. Of course, if you get FDA approval and you don't have reimbursement, insurance reimbursement, there's no revenue, so there's no business. Moving up, there are many other steps, but just simply summarize, there's testing and optimization, validation, and all of these steps require much documentation. And you really need expert help for that documentation. Moving on to manufacturing, remember that medical products require specialized packaging and labeling. Even after you have launched your product, it has entered the market, there is ongoing product lifecycle monitoring and managing, also requiring documentation. The key point here is that for each of these circles, these steps, Minnesota has many support services and experts locally that actually Minnesota companies rely on. So of course, they can help your company too. And Minnesota's biggest advantage, I would say, is that 95% of the medical industry is conveniently located within 50 kilometers. San Francisco, Los Angeles, 600 kilometers. Plus, the traffic is terrible. And many of you know the Boston area. Boston is also very congested. Lastly, let's move on to distribution and logistics. You saw earlier that FedEx is a key member of the Medical Alley Association. Minnesota also has the headquarters of the largest logistics company, C.H. Robinson. And you may be surprised to know that Japan's big freight forwarders are also here. I think Nippon Express has been here for 30 or 40 years. So Minnesota is a place where people move around between these circles, from big company to small companies, or to a venture capital company, or to a support service provider. And they take this medical expertise with them so that each circle in these two slides develop deep medical experience. Minnesota is collaborative because people know each other. It's like a village. So if they can't help you, they usually are happy to introduce you to somebody else. Because of this tight ecosystem of expertise, Minnesota startups enjoy the fastest 510K FDA clearance time. Looking also at PMA, this is the more difficult pre-market approval. Minnesota's share is 41% of all PMAs for the past 10 years combined. So Minnesota dominates this area. So if your company is developing a medical device, or you are thinking about an M&A, this Minnesota advantage in time saving means cost savings, faster revenue, faster market share compared to locating in other states. Or if your company is looking for new technologies and innovative small companies, Minnesota has several initiatives and an exciting active startup scene. I think in Japanese you call it venta business, we call it startup. This is a big topic for another presentation, but if small companies and new technologies is of interest to your company, our office can direct you to resources and how to find them and make introductions. Or if you are ready to set up a liaison office or incubator or an R&D center, there are several ways that can help make your arrival a much softer landing. Shown here are just a few examples. Most of these started as public-private partnerships, and they welcome international companies. I know the people here, and they are very welcoming. For example, Incubology, this was a former 3M facility, fantastic facility. The next is UEL, which is focused more on the biotech companies, but they also welcome medtech companies. Next is the Mayo Clinic Business Accelerator. This is really for startups, but it is inside the Minnesota Bio Business Center in Rochester. And I know several European companies have started their adventure in America in these offices. And last but not least is the Discovery Square, and you will be hearing more about that from DMC, the largest PPP. My final section is briefly about incentives. I mentioned the research base, but if your company is contemplating R&D base here, Minnesota has an R&D tax credit at the state level, which is in addition to the federal R&D tax credit. Our tax credit is 10% on the first $2 million of expenses, and then it's 2.5% thereafter. As for the other incentives, Minnesota realizes that most large corporations, whether American, European, or Japanese, they don't really need financial assistance. Nevertheless, our incentives are the same whether your company is from Minnesota, California, or Japan. Minnesota's policy is to support companies who invest in growth in our state. Generally, our incentives are based on the one hand on your company's investment, and on the other hand, the number of new jobs, and also the weight of that jobs, which basically means the pay. So in other words, if you hire more Minnesota engineers, then there's more incentives given in the form of low interest loans or grants, including training grants. And lastly, there are also other tax incentives to help reduce your costs. Of course, we can provide details specific to your project, and we work with our local communities, which include our suburban communities, who also provide tax breaks, and they are eager to welcome you. In closing, if you are interested in learning how Minnesota can be an advantage to your company, please contact us, kumori@minnesota.gov. at our Tokyo office. They have been a very good partner to Minnesota, or me here in St. Paul. We are here to do our best to make it a soft landing for you. Thank you.
Thank you, サラさん。ありがとうございました。サラさんも実は日本語ペラペラなんですが、今日はちょっと恥ずかしがって英語でということで、英語でお話をいただきました。お話もありました配布資料のところには日本語の翻訳資料も格納しておりますので、合わせてご参照いただければと思います。サラさんのお話でエコシステムといってもより現場に根ざした企業の製造拠点、開発拠点、そして承認を取っていくような現場を起点としたエコシステムの詳細をご理解いただけたと思います。それでは最後に本日のメインスピーカーである DMC のシーブ代表から構想についてお話をいただきます。まさに病院自体が、エコシステム病院が重要な役割を果たするどこのエコシステムも同じだと思いますけれども、その病院自体が主役となってエコシステムを形成していく、この DMC の構想についてお話をいただきます。So thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Steve.
It is my pleasure to be here, and I so appreciate the opportunity to join you and so many future friends in Japan and here in the United States.
Thank you.
I do want to thank the Consul General and members of the organizing group and all of the guests who are attending today. I am joined by two colleagues, Chris Shad and Bill Von Bank, who are participating in this call, who are part of our team to help introduce Minnesota to communities across the country and across the world. You've heard much about Destination Medical Center from our governor, who has been an amazing champion and cheerleader for our work. I joined him in the delegation to Japan 18 months ago, maybe 16 months ago. And before that, in 2016, I was in Japan as a part of a series of lectures with Waseda and Nara and Osaka. And so it is a pleasure to join you today, if only virtually. You have heard that we are home to the Mississippi River. Very proud of that natural landscape and feature. We're home to the Mall of America and to pop artist Prince. We're also home to Mayo Clinic. You'll hear more about Mayo Clinic and the important role it plays not only in Rochester and Minnesota and across the world. Located, as Sarah pointed out, in the heartland of the United States, the center of the country, the geographic center of the country, and Rochester itself is located in the center of Minnesota. Rochester is frequently rated as one of the #1 places to live in the United States, one of the most innovative cities in the country, one of the most recession-resistant cities in the country, proven once again during the COVID pandemic, as we have rebounded more rapidly than any other city, nearly any other city in the country. And we're home to an international airport with service from American, Delta, and United Airlines. And we're a very diverse city. 80 languages spoken in our schools, workers from around the world, people who come here to train and be educated at Mayo Clinic, who stay here and make a life here. Destination Medical Center was founded to be a partner to Mayo Clinic to grow Rochester as a destination, a catalyst to position Rochester as the world's premier destination center for health and wellness, attracting people and investment and jobs to what we call America's City for Health, in supporting the economic growth of Minnesota and its bioscience sectors. And we can only do that through partnerships and collaborations with Sarah and her organization, the state of Minnesota, JETRO, and all of you as individual businesses and collaborators. We were formed with the understanding that there was an opportunity for Rochester to live up to the brand that Mayo Clinic is. So Mayo Clinic attracts patients and visitors from around the world, and it rates among the top in terms of customer experience, rates among the best against any service or program company, Apple or Best Buy or any number of companies. Mayo Clinic ranks as high as any in terms of customer experience. But what we found is that the city of Rochester needed to grow to respond to the meeting the demands and expectations of patients, visitors, and residents. Mayo Clinic is committed to investing $3.5 billion in Rochester over the next 20 years. Already they're on pace in the previous 5 years, the past 5 years, of investing $500 million. And they have a program of work and investment in their clinical services, in research, and in education to invest another $3 billion over the next 20 years. That investment will attract more than $2 billion of private investment. And our organization leverages $585 million of public money to help support these investments, to transform Rochester into this global destination for health and wellness. We have organized our focus into 8 areas. Livability, creating a livable, attractive, vital city. Hotel and hospitality, a city that is welcoming and accommodating. Entertainment, arts, and civic culture. Commercial research and technology, and you'll hear more about that. Health and wellness, so not only are we the best at delivering healthcare, but we can also be the best at creating an environment for wellness. Learning and education and the learning environment. Not only do we have top-notch public educations and public education programs, but we also are home to universities, including a campus of the University of Minnesota. Sports and recreation and transportation, of course, building out the transportation service and network. We focus our work on an area of the downtown that is adjacent to the St. Mary's and Mayo Clinic campuses. So St. Mary's Hospital, largest hospital in the country, and Mayo Clinic campus, representing nearly 40 buildings in this downtown campus. And this is the focus of the geography of our investment of public infrastructure. We've attracted investment from around the country, and if we had a world map in front of us, we would show the investment coming in from around the world. That investment of nearly $1 billion of private investment in the past 5 years, both Mayo Clinic and other private investment, we are ahead of pace, ahead of what we anticipated in terms of that total $5.5 billion of private investment. So we entered this COVID crisis from a position of strength, a position of success, and as we have adjusted to the disruption, we are finding that we are prepared as no other city to come out of it and rebound. Even during the pandemic, we saw considerable growth and investment emerging, new housing options, new transportation and mobility options, and of course, our life science innovation district, Discovery Square. Discovery Square is a 16-block sub-district of our downtown. that is intended to be fully integrated, live, work, and play. And it is the economic engine for Destination Medical Center that is already attracting the world's leading medical practitioners, educators, researchers, and business, including Boston Scientific, Epic, medical records, electronic medical records, Philips, Wuxi Diagnostics, Rion, which is a Mayo Clinic startup. Google is opening a presence here in Rochester with their 10-year partnership that was established, BioSig, Inference, and the list continues to grow. This is the one place where businesses are invited to experience and be part of Mayo's culture of collaboration. So not only do we have these outside companies from outside of Rochester and outside of Mayo Clinic, Discovery Square is also home to Mayo Clinic services and researchers as well. Discovery Square is this new healthcare innovation campus that is designed with collaboration in mind. So it's very intentional in that it's designed to support the acceleration and translation of the most promising health-related therapies and technologies. As I mentioned, Mayo Clinic is an anchor tenant. And in this building, Mayo Clinic has their advanced manufacturing for regenerative products, biomedical technology, and advanced diagnostic laboratory. And it's home to this and other world-leading organizations and the University of Minnesota, Rochester. And this campus continues to grow. It's noteworthy for me to say that Mayo Clinic has one of the most robust healthcare science research engines in the country. More than $1 billion worth of research flows through Mayo Clinic annually, much of that funded by the National Institute of Health and private funding. But what it is best at is what they refer to as bench to bedside, the research that helps to solve a problem that is needed for patients immediately. What they are not good at, and what they would acknowledge they're not good at, is commercializing that research, product development, distribution, manufacturing, and marketing. And they have opened their doors to the country and to the world and have said, we are interested and looking for partners who want to tap in to our intellectual property, to our scientists, and to our innovators to accelerate the advancement of health science and improving the livelihood of people in the country and across the world. In this slide, you see the first and newest building of Discovery Square, One Discovery Square in blue, and in the foreground of that building, Discovery Square 2 under construction already, ready to accept new tenants, new companies, and new classroom space, as again, we model ourselves after One Discovery Square to develop this multi-purpose building that is home to innovation. All of the buildings surrounding Discovery Square are part of Mayo's research campus. And so we were intentional about the location of this building to be proximal to the world-leading scientists in many science industries, science fields. Sarah did a great job already talking about Medical Alley. Mayo doesn't exist on an island. Rochester doesn't exist on an island. We're part of this incredible ecosystem with international brands like 3M and Medtronic and Ecolab, with investment from countries and companies from around the world, and a trade organization called Medical Alley that becomes a facilitator to companies that are established here or want to establish here or want to make connections. We are also committed to growing the entrepreneurial and startup ecosystem in Rochester and southeastern Minnesota. We are connected to 15 other communities to support entrepreneurship through something called the E1 Network, a federally supported initiative to help regions of the country like ours to tap in to the inherent innovation of the region. In addition to health and social services, manufacturing, in addition to health, I should say, manufacturing, social services, and agriculture are top industries in southeast Minnesota. Much of the world's corn is grown here in Minnesota and southeastern Minnesota. We have precision manufacturing here in southeastern Minnesota, of course, in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul as well. We are a future-focused organization and community. As we grow our residential population, we are focusing on new transit and transportation alternatives such as bus, rapid transit, and bike and pedestrian access, and we are a test site for autonomous vehicles. As a part of our campaign to introduce DMC, Destination Medical Center, Mayo Clinic, and Rochester to the world, we have launched a podcast called Urban Evolution. I'd like to invite you to listen to a podcast, and particularly one of the inaugural podcasts from that featured Dr. Clark Otley, Chief Medical Officer of Mayo Clinic Platform, and a member of the Destination Medical Center Initiative. I think you'll find it quite enlightening and inspiring, and you can find that at urbanevolutionpodcast.com. So in summary, Destination Medical Center is Minnesota's largest economic development initiative. We were launched in 2015, and it's a 20-year commitment. So we are at the front end of a long-term time horizon commitment to growing $5.6 billion of new investment in Rochester. And we are a partnership of the state of Minnesota, the city of Rochester, and Olmsted County. We don't do it alone. And we are transforming Rochester into a global destination for health and wellness, but we know we will only do that through collaboration and partnership, through on-the-ground relationships, such as the relationship we have with JETRO and many of the companies who are joining us on this call. We are a top-tier city, and our ranking in livability, and it's one of the most recession-resistant cities in America, has been stated. In Mayo Clinic, we say over and over again, because it is so profound, is the #1 hospital in the country, in the world, and repeatedly each and every year receives that ranking because they are committed to doing their work in a way that sets the bar for anybody else. Our focus, key to our focus, is the growth of bioscience, the bioscience sector. This is essential for the growth of downtown, the growth of Rochester, and the growth of Minnesota. And we are home to state-of-the-art developments. Discovery Square is positioned to be this health innovation campus associated with Mayo Clinic as an anchor tenant, hard linked and connected to scientists, innovators, physicians who you will bump into at the coffee shop or the lunch counter. In addition to health and social services, we are leading in manufacturing and agriculture as well. As we said at the beginning, my name is Patrick Sieve. I'm Executive Director. I would love to get to know you further. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out to us through my email address, and know that we will do all of our work in collaboration and partnership. And I mentioned earlier that 2 of my colleagues have joined us, Chris Shad and Bill Von Bank, both of whom will be listening in for questions and comments and any follow-up that we want to do with any of you. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to provide this presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sieve, for your comprehensive presentation. Thank you very much. So I'd like to take a question from the floor. So これから QA の時間が許す限り質問をしていきたいと思っています。サラさんもぜひカメラをつけてください。それでは質問をさせていただきたいと思います。So I'd like to take the question for Sarah-san first. So 州政府の役割についてですね、その州政府がどのように日本企業をサポートできるか、さあどのようなサポートをしてくれるかという質問について、サラさんに答えていただければと思います。サラさん、could you?
Sure. Well, I mentioned in the slide about the accelerators and incubators, and that's an example of facilities that exist, but you might not know which one is best for you. So I would be happy to talk with you. Kumori would be happy to talk with you and help guide you into where to go. Of course, our ultimate goal is to go develop the DMC in Rochester, but maybe as a first step, you might want to be in Minneapolis when you open a liaison office. So we can do all of that guidance. And also, I know these people, and so we can make introductions. When the pandemic is over and you can travel, we can take you there. So that's just one example. As far as matchmaking, we get many requests from all over the world for matchmaking, as you might understand. So it's difficult for us to do one-on-one matchmaking. Also, that competes against our consulting people, and it's really their business to get into the details of one-on-one. However, we have many, many entry points to meet companies. And for example, there are pitch events, which is a good opportunity to learn about companies. So let us know what your interest is, and then we can direct you to the resources where you can learn about, you can do some of the research. And then once you are ready to contact those companies, we help find the correct, the best contact for you. If we don't know them, we can find a contact for you. And then, of course, the really big challenge in America now is that if you don't already have a relationship, it's very challenging to receive a response to your email or to your phone call. Most Americans do not pick up the telephone anymore. And so here's where we can really help by making that initial introduction and carrying you forward. But we do ask you to do some of the research yourself. And I do need to just clarify one other point, which is that the mission of our office is to help Minnesota's exports and also inward investment into Minnesota. Unfortunately, our office does not support imports, only investment. I understand business. Imports lead to investment and so forth, but we have a very small, very small office. And so we really are just focused on inbound investment. However, as a step towards that investment, if you need to develop relationships with companies, of course we can. We can help there. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
ありがとうございました。特にその出張がいけない中で、キーパーソンを的確に教えていただいて、紹介していただくというところ、特定の大企業を紹介してくれというのは難しいとは分かりましたけれども、州政府の役割について教えていただきましてありがとうございます。Thank you, Sarah-san. So I'd like to ask some questions for Mr. C.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So it's about venture capitals. So many people say the amount of venture capital funding is important to scale the size of the ecosystem. So what is your response to this, and how are the venture capitals from around the United States responding to this DMC initiative? Let me explain in Japanese first. So VC ですね。 ベンチャーキャピタルが、アメリカのベンチャーキャピタルがこの DMC 構想についてどのような反応をしているのか、ぜひそれについてコメントをお願いします。Please.
Thank you, and I appreciate that question. It's an excellent question. First, I start out by saying that I believe money follows ideas. And the more that we present Rochester as an idea factory, as an innovation factory, the more money is attracted to Rochester. We have several small, relatively small venture capital funds that have been established here as we have launched and initiated this effort. And those venture capital funds have seeded more than 24 companies, some of whom themselves have succeeded themselves and are advancing. And we expect any one of those companies could be successful enough to themselves spin off and become an exit and themselves regenerate this venture capital. In addition, we work with venture capital interests from around Minnesota and other parts of the country. Moreover, Mayo Clinic itself is an investor in new technologies and new ideas. And so while they wouldn't consider themselves or call themselves a venture capital, they themselves are an investor in promising technology, oftentimes technology that was born out of Mayo Clinic science.
Thank you. So next question is about the role of Mayo Clinic. So Mr. Sip, your presentation covers what Mayo Clinic want to do at this DMC, but could you elaborate a little bit more? So for example, the doctors at Mayo Clinic can be a mentor of the business, or can the Japanese company, if they set up a business inside DMC, maybe especially Discover Square, can they talk with the doctors? So could you explain? Let me explain in Japanese as well. So この構想の中で、メイヨクリニックの役割がどのようなものか、もう少し詳細を教えてほしいという質問です。具体的には医師と交流ができるのか、もしくはビジネスに対する相談を医師自身が受けていただけるのかという相談です。Please, Mr. Sip.
Thank you. Well, let me start with this. Every Mayo physician is a clinical service provider, a researcher, and an educator. It is part of the core value system of Mayo Clinic and how it really integrates research, education, and clinical practice. And so there is a culture in Mayo around mentorship, around idea sharing, around teaching, and around education. So it is a core value and a starting point, and it is something you would find across nearly, and you would expect it of every physician. Moreover, there is an appetite among Mayo physicians to work with and partner with companies who are innovating, starting, creating new ideas, advancing technology. So I think Japanese companies, those on this call today, would find this to be a very warm and welcoming environment. And moreover, it's important to know that there are many Japanese physicians, Japanese trained physicians here at Mayo Clinic. And so you might find some friendly faces, people that you know from Japan who are here because this medical school and the fellowship programs attract people from all over the world.
Thank you. ありがとうございます。大学も病院もなかなか中に入るビジネスからその門を叩くというのは難しいところなんですけれども、その入り口がしっかりあるということが分かって非常に良かったと思います。So, I found the word, right, Rian, Mayo Clinic startups. I found it's very interesting. So it means the clinic itself is investing the business. ちょっと私の質問は、スティーブさんのプレゼンテーションで、メイヨークリニックのスタートアップという表現がありましたが、病院自身が投資することはあるのかという質問をしました。So, could you...
As part of Mayo's commitment to a culture of innovation, they began changing policies within Mayo Clinic that reduced the barriers and in fact created encouragement for Mayo physicians and scientists to start up companies to use the intellectual property that may have been gained through their research here, and through a very transparent communication with the Mayo Business Development Office, avail that technology to private development. And so Mayo Clinic physicians and scientists are in fact starting up companies, and oftentimes Mayo Clinic will invest in those companies as a partner and as an investor. And so Rion is one good example. Viriad, which is a engineered virus engineering to treat cancer, is another example. There's examples in surgical devices and surgical technology. So many examples from devices to cancer treatment to informatics.
Thank you. Is there any specific team to collaborate a business, or each department or physician work separately, individually? Do you know this background?
Mayo Clinic has begun developing the internal infrastructure to support business startup from science and technology developed within Mayo. There is the Office of Entrepreneurship, which is led by a medical doctor, and there is the Business Development, the Department of Business Development, which is responsible for licensing Mayo technology either to companies, perhaps companies like those on this webinar, or to practitioners within Mayo Clinic. And that's led by Dr. Clark Otley, who I should mention was interviewed as a part of our inaugural podcast series.
Thank you very much. そうですね、いくつか具体的なご自身の技術についてのコメントのご質問をいただいていますけれども、今回はより広い質問を最後に一つ採用させていただきたいと思います。もう少しこの市全体の取り組みで新しいことをやっていくようなことはあるのか、DMC の構想で市でテストをしたりだとかすることはあるのかという質問です。The question is, is there any initiative as the city is taking, so for example, a field test of innovative technology or mobility related or wearable related, that types of whole city initiatives?
Thank you. That is a wonderful question. And Rochester views itself as a prototype city. We are committed to using the city itself as a test site for autonomous vehicles, as I mentioned earlier, for investment in infrastructure that creates healthy living, for the opportunity of using technology to assist people with mobility impairment. I mentioned one of my colleagues on the phone on the webinar, Chris Shad. He leads something called the Assistive Technology Challenge, and I'd love to share that with you and to members on this webinar. And this is in its infancy. The Assistive Tech Challenge is in its infancy, but in the 2 years that we have launched this initiative, we have already found innovations around public infrastructure, around wheelchair mobility, and we are using this as a platform because we know not only is population in the United States aging, and certainly population in Japan is aging, and we know that we want to future-proof our city for an aging population. And so the Assistive Technology Challenge is yet another example of us being committed to testing and innovating and using the place itself as a way to do that.
Thank you for mentioning the reason why we can collaborate. Thank you. ありがとうございました。ご質問まだいただいていますけれども、お時間ですので、time's up, so we have to end. ここで終了したいと思います。改めて、この15年からのイニシアティブでありますけれども、現実の建設はまさに今動いている段階ですので、今からぜひ、このミネソタの DMC 構想も日本企業の皆様に注目いただければと思います。 それでは改めまして、Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Steve. 本日はお時間をいただきましてありがとうございました。
May I just conclude by saying I really welcome all of those participating today to join us in Minnesota when we can travel and meet in person, and I would be honored to host you and representatives to learn more about Rochester and Mayo Clinic. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this program.
Thank you. それでは改めて本日ご参加いただきたい日本企業の皆様ありがとうございました。この後アンケートありますので、ぜひ回答いただければと思います。それでは本日はありがとうございました。これで失礼いたします。